How about if a child is halfway out of the birth canal? Is an abortion permissible then?
Can you repeat your question?
If a child is halfway delivered out of the birth canal, is it permissible to have an abortion? Would you support the right for an abortion then?
I can't even fathom that ever.
I'm not asking you if you can fathom it. If it occurred, would you support that abortion or not? That's unrestricted abortion, right?
That's a question that I can't imagine. Just like you probably can't imagine what you would do if your daughter was raped. If it hasn't happened, it may be difficult for you.
You're not going to answer this question, but how about this one? How does one qualify as fully human?
What you are about to watch is a United
being?
States Senator Corner, a medical doctor, a woman who calls herself a defender of healthcare and science, and watch her completely collapse when asked the most basic, the most fundamental, the most unavoidable question in the entire abortion debate. What you are about to watch is a Democrat witness who cannot tell you when a human being becomes a human being, who cannot say whether a child halfway out of the birth canal deserves protection, who hides behind words like unrealistic and theoretical when faced with the logical endpoint of the radical position she is sitting there defending. What you are about to watch will show you exactly what the left means when they say unrestricted abortion on demand, and it is chilling. Stay right there, because when this clip is done, we are going to break down every evasion, every deflection, and every moment this senator exposed the radical left's abortion agenda for exactly what it is. Like this video, subscribe right now, and do not leave before the end, because what comes next will shake you to your core.
The very subject of this hearing is an outrage. Abortion care, the stated topic today, is of course an oxymoron. But the timing and the obvious purpose of this hearing today are unconscionable, and they are profoundly damaging to our institutions. Democrats are engaging in a brazen attempt here to intimidate and bully the justices of the Supreme Court as they consider a challenge to Mississippi's pro-life law. As soon as the draft opinion was leaked, their activists on the left began to picket and harass the justices and their families in their homes. Democrats have threatened the justices by name in the press, on the steps of the Supreme Court, and in recent briefs to the court. And now, in this and previous Judiciary Committee hearings, we have jurisdiction over the American system of justice, and the fact that we would be here trying to influence a pending opinion is unprecedented and dangerous to our institutions. So much for the Constitution, our system of justice, and our critical foundations in the principle of judicial independence. There is no right to abortion in the Constitution, period. Never was. It's not in its text, it's not in its structure, not in its meaning. Roe invented the right out of thin air, and it was highly criticized from the moment that it was published. And this has imposed a tragically consequential and a court-created social policy on the people of our country. And as a result, as was said a moment ago, almost 65 million of America's unborn children have perished because of it. Because there is no right to an abortion in the Constitution, that question is left to the states for the people to decide. This is long overdue, and after nearly a half century, we are very hopeful and grateful that might finally happen. Ms. Goodwin reminded us just a moment ago that facts matter. So let's talk about the underlying facts, because the facts and the law and the logic and the advancements in medical technology are clearly on the side of life. As the Susan B. Anthony list summarizes it well, quote, "The humanity of the unborn child is undeniable now, thanks to advances in modern medicine and science. At 6 weeks, an unborn child has a beating heart, and by 15 weeks, unborn children can suck their thumbs. They have fully formed noses and lips, eyes and eyebrows, and they can feel excruciating pain. These children deserve a voice in the American democratic process." In the recent Dobbs argument before the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Roberts pointed to the fact that the U.S. is an outlier to the vast majority of other countries' viability standards. He said, quote, "When you get to the viability standard, we share that standard with the People's Republic of China and North Korea. It is unconscionable to think that the United States is one of only 7 countries that allows for abortions for any reason after 20 weeks. In our nation's birth certificate, we boldly declare that it is a self-evident truth that human beings are made by their Creator and they are endowed by Him with certain inalienable rights. The first listed is the right to life for obvious reasons." All 3 of the Democrat witnesses here today support and advocate for what they say is unrestricted abortion on demand. Let me ask Dr. Robinson, I could go to any of them, but you're the medical doctor. Based on your website and your testimony today, you clearly support the right to abort a 20-week-old unborn child. So I would love for you to explain to us, in your medical opinion, at what point in pregnancy should having an abortion no longer be an option?
Thank you for the question. As a medical doctor, I understand that every pregnancy is unique and different. I also understand that patients need to have access to care pregnant people as the pregnancy progresses, and that may be for various reasons.
Okay, let me ask you.
So
Let me ask you. Do you support the right of a woman who is just seconds away from birthing a healthy child to have an abortion?
I think that the question that you're asking does not realistically reflect abortion care.
In that
the
scenario,
United States.
would you support her right to abort that child?
I won't entertain theoreticals.
It's not a
That's not
theoretical, ma'am.
reality.
You're a medical doctor.
I am a medical doctor, and that has never happened.
Never happened in your
healthcare-
practice, ma'am, but it happens. How about if a child is halfway out of the birth? How about if a child is halfway out of the birth canal? Is an abortion permissible then?
Can you repeat your question?
If a child is halfway delivered out of the birth canal, is it permissible to have an abortion? Would you support the right for an abortion then?
I can't even fathom that ever.
I'm not asking you if you can fathom it. If it occurred, would you support that abortion or not? That's unrestricted abortion,
I can't
right?
answer a question that I can't imagine. Just like you probably can't imagine what you would do if your daughter was raped. If it hasn't happened, it may be
Okay,
difficult for you.
you're not going to answer this
that
question, but how about this one? How does one qualify as fully human? What makes a human being?
What makes a person a human being is
right.
them being born, number one. That's why
Oh.
we have birthdays. And then also their individual DNA, them having autonomy, being able to act and think.
Okay, but
autonomously,
wait a minute. A newborn
able to
child lacks the
breathe and
immediate
live
capacity.
outside of the
A
womb.
newborn child lacks the immediate capacity to make conscious, deliberate choices. So is infanticide okay?
I think what we're here to talk about is abortion care. What you're describing is something that is already illegal, and there are laws on the books for that. So I'm not a proponent.
But
of
see,
any
you understand
restrictions.
if Dobbs is handed down, the states will be able to make that decision, and there are some that will go that far. You need to be aware of what we're talking about today. I'm out of time. I yield back.
Let's
There
start
are
with the
law-
bigger picture, because this senator was absolutely right before a single question was even asked. Democrats called this hearing for one reason, and one reason only: to bully and intimidate sitting Supreme Court justices while they are actively deliberating a case. That is not oversight. That is not democracy. That is an assault on the independence of the judiciary, and every American, regardless of where they stand on abortion, should be horrified by it. The left leaked a draft opinion, unleashed their activist mobs on the homes of justices and their families, threatened them by name on the steps of the Supreme Court itself, and then had the audacity to hold a congressional hearing to pile on even more pressure. That is authoritarian behavior. Full stop. Now to the exchange itself. And this is where it gets devastating. This senator asked Dr. Robinson a simple question. At what point in pregnancy should abortion no longer be permitted? She could not answer it, would not answer it. A medical doctor, sitting before Congress, advocating for abortion access, refused to draw a single line anywhere. That tells you everything. Because the moment she draws that line, the entire my body, my choice argument begins to collapse, and she knows it. So the senator tightened the noose. Would you support the right to abort a child seconds away from a healthy birth? She called it theoretical. It is not theoretical. It is the logical conclusion of an unrestricted position, and she knows that too. Then he asked the most powerful question of the entire hearing. If a child is halfway out of the birth canal, halfway delivered, half in the world, is an abortion permissible then? And she said she couldn't fathom it. She couldn't fathom it. That is not a medical answer. That is a woman who knows that if she answers honestly, she exposes the barbarism at the heart of the radical abortion agenda she is there to defend. And then came the most revealing moment of all. The senator asked her directly, "What makes a person a human being?" And she said, "Being born." That is her answer. That a child who is fully formed, who has a beating heart at 6 weeks, who can feel pain at 15 weeks, who can suck their thumb, who has a fully developed face, that child is not a human being until the moment of birth. Under that logic, a child 1 inch from entering the world has 0 rights and 0 protection. That is not a medical position. That is an ideology. And it is a deeply, morally bankrupt one. The senator was right on every single point. There is no right to abortion in the Constitution. There never was. Roe invented it from nothing and imposed it on an entire nation for nearly 50 years over the objections of the democratic process. The United States was one of only 7 countries on earth that allowed abortion for any reason after 20 weeks, sharing that standard with China and North Korea. That is not a badge of honor. That is a national shame. The facts, the science, and the moral logic are on the side of life. And this exchange proved it beyond any doubt. When the other side cannot answer whether a child halfway through the birth canal deserves protection, they have already lost the argument. They just refuse to admit it.